NC Pork. Good for the plate, great for the state.
I will have shout outs involving NC State and Duke and East Carolina and others, but as always, I will start with a fun fact. There is a Division II program. Valdosta State had gone 34 years, that is since 1991, and through 395 consecutive football games without being shut out. The Blazers of Valdosta State are a four-time Division II national champion, most recently, by the way, in 2018 under Coach Kerwin Bell, who's now the head coach at Western Carolina in the FCS ranks, and a guy who has visited us on the David Glenn Show. So anyway, why would we bring up an out-of-state Division II program in our Fun Facts segment? Well, last Saturday, under their third-year head coach Mark Hall and their third-year defensive coordinator Colin Neely, UNC Pembroke, that Chris mentioned to start today's show, went to Valdosta State and blanked the nationally ranked Blazers 31-0 on their home field, ending that 34-year no shutout streak. Coach Hall, who previously served as a successful head coach at Chowan University, another D2 program right here in North Carolina, is now well on his way to his fifth straight winning season in his 5 years as a head coach. Meanwhile, the journey of Coach Neely, the Braves' standout defensive coordinator who helped that magic happen last Saturday, he provides us with a fun fact within this fun fact. During his playing days, Neely was a star defensive end in the Big Ten at Michigan State, where he competed under a decorated defensive coordinator named Pat Narduzzi, who, of course, is now the head coach of the Pitt Panthers in the ACC. UNC Pembroke, which did not even field a football program until 2007, entered the D2 rankings this week for the first time this season. The 4-1 Braves are number 24 or number 25, depending on the poll, and they would love to make a run at their program's best ever season, which came in 2016, when they finished 10-2 and number 13 in the final coaches poll of that campaign. At this moment, UNCP is the only one of our 32 in-state NCAA football programs that is nationally ranked. And at this point, the Braves are favored to win their league, which is called the Conference Carolinas. If they pull that off, they will earn that league's automatic bid to the Division II football playoffs, which this year is growing to a 32-team bracket.
When their service is over, our veterans may have a new career and life to manage. We're here to help, providing more than $1 million a year in career-building scholarship funds and discounts on every haircut for veterans. Sport Clips Haircuts, supporting veterans everywhere.
Now for some quick shout-outs. Shout out to NC State running back Hollywood Smothers. If you go by Hollywood, it is not easy to live up to your nickname. But Smothers is doing exactly that here during his redshirt sophomore campaign with the Wolfpack. Entering October, Smothers was averaging 114 rushing yards per game with 570 yards on an ACC best 96 carries. That comes out to about 6 yards per carry, which is an outstanding number, especially in the middle or latter part of a season. His 114 rushing yards per game are sixth nationally, third among Power 4 players, and head and shoulders above every other guy in the ACC. By the way, just as we celebrate homegrown college stars here in the North Carolina Sports Network, we also celebrate those who may have started their college career somewhere else, only to return to the bold North State. Smothers is a perfect example of that. He was a four-star prospect at West Charlotte High School. He originally signed with the Oklahoma Sooners, but he transferred to NC State prior to the 2024 season after redshirting his single season at OU. Smothers was an effective backup for the Wolfpack last year, and as a starter this season, he is putting up some all-ACC type numbers so far. Shout out to Duke running back Nate Shepard, a true freshman from near New Orleans. He has emerged at midseason as one of the most promising newcomers in the entire Atlantic Coast Conference. Shepard is about 5'10" and 200 pounds, enrolled at Duke in January of this year. So when you have the benefit of going through spring practice, He opened the season third or fourth on the Duke depth chart at running back, but with each passing week, it has become more clear that he is the Devils' most electrifying player at that position, even as a true freshman. After carrying the ball only a handful of times in Duke's first two games, he had 75 yards on just 5 carries in his homecoming game of sorts when Duke visited Tulane right there in New Orleans. That eye-opening performance led to additional playing time, as you might guess. Then Shepard had 14 carries for 61 yards in Duke's win over NC State, and he followed that up with his collegiate breakout game last week, 15 carries, 168 yards, and 2 touchdowns in the Blue Devils' 38-3 annihilation of Syracuse. Shepard's performance against the Orange led to both the ACC's Running Back of the Week and Rookie of the Week honors just a couple days ago. Shout out to East Carolina head coach Blake Harrell, the team's former defensive coordinator, remember, and his brand new defensive coordinator, Josh Aldridge, and the entire Pirates defense after their 28-6 victory last Thursday night over Army. The Black Knights run a variation of the triple option offense, and it's an absolute headache to prepare for simply because it's so different than most of what college defenses face on a week-to-week basis. About 11 months ago, up in West Point, Army possessed the ball for it was actually more than 37 minutes against the Pirates and dominated them on the scoreboard too during what became a 45-28 victory for the Knights. This time in Greenville, ECU limited Army to only 12 first downs and less than 300 total yards in what was an impressive 28-6 win for the Pirates at Dowdy-Ficklin Stadium. The defensive stars included sixth-year senior safety Teagan Wilk, fifth-year senior linebacker Raheem Craig, and sophomore safety Jamarly Riddle. So far this season, ECU leads the American Conference in scoring defense at only 13 points per game. Shout out to Duke head coach Manny Diaz, another defensive guy, and his second-year defensive coordinator, Jonathan Patke, and the entire Blue Devils defense after their 38-3 shellacking of Syracuse in the Dome in upstate New York last Saturday. That game was so lopsided that it matched the Orange's worst home loss since they joined the ACC in 2013. As we discussed on last week's show, the Orange were coming off that huge win at Clemson, but they had lost their big arm, gunslinging quarterback, Notre Dame transfer Steve Angeli, to a torn Achilles in that game. Syracuse's backup QB, an LSU transfer named Ricky Collins, is a completely different type of athlete, someone likely to use a completely different part of the playbook, and he hadn't played much at either LSU or Syracuse, so that lack of video to study probably complicated the Blue Devils' game preparation on defense last week. Nevertheless, Diaz and Patke, who have known each other for more than a decade and worked together previously at Mississippi State and at Miami, where remember Manny Diaz was the head coach for a while, they put together another wonderful game plan, and the Blue Devils executed it to near perfection, forcing 3 turnovers and limiting the Orange to only 314 yards and a single field goal. Duke has not been great overall on defense this season, but that win at Syracuse was an enormous step in the right direction on that side of the ball. Last but not least, shout out to East Carolina's backup holder, 5'8", 150-pound Kyler Pearson, for his huge special teams play in the Pirates' 28-6 victory over Army in last Thursday's ESPN game. Pearson is a sixth-year senior who has played almost exclusively on special teams during his entire college career, and ECU is his 4th university after previous stops at Kansas, Tennessee Martin, and Oklahoma State. In Greenville, he's a graduate student walk-on, which is not something you see very often, but he earned his way onto the team's depth chart as the Pirates' #1 punt returner. He is also the backup holder, and with ECU nursing a 21-6 lead over Army in the 4th quarter, the Pirates inserted him into the lineup as they lined up for a field goal, but of course they faked it. Pearson took what looked like a purposely high snap that brought him out of his crouch. He darted as a little guy that you probably couldn't even see behind those massive linemen, darted through a beautifully created hole on the right side of the line, and then scooted, and I mean with some speed, check it out on YouTube, past a diving safety's tackle attempt for a 32-yard touchdown that clinched the ECU win over the Black Knights in front of the home fans. After 5.5 years of college football, Pearson scored his very first touchdown, and he did it during his team's victory and on national television, no less. Well done, Kyler Pearson. Well done, ECU. I am David Glenn, and those are my fun facts and shout-outs as we head into college football's Week 6 right here on the North Carolina Sports Network.
This has been Bold North State Football Daily, an exclusive presentation of the North Carolina Sports Network. Make sure you follow us on social media at the NC Sports Net, and check out our website that is wall-to-wall coverage of North Carolina sports at ncsportsnetwork.com. Our foundational partner is the North Carolina Pork Council, raising the bacon, raising the bar. Telling the stories of the bold North State, this is the North Carolina Sports Network.